I was 10 years old when I got lost in the woods in Virginia. At first, I thought I was just turned around, but then I started hearing footsteps following behind me. And before I escaped the forest, I saw something in the sky so horrifying that even now, 10 years later, I still can't fully explain it. And the strangest part, nobody even knew I went missing. This story comes from the scary part of the internet. My best friend and I spent most of our summers exploring the woods near our homes. One afternoon, we found this hidden creek deep in the forest. Clear water, soft moss along the banks, no bugs, no snakes. It felt like the perfect place. So the next day, we packed lunch and we tried to find it again. But instead of the creek, we walked into a clearing covered in giant ferns that we'd never seen before. But the deeper we walked afterward, the darker the woods started to feel, and everything suddenly felt colder. My friend kept stopping to look behind us like she thought something was following us. Then we found it. An entire bathroom sitting in the middle of the woods. A bathtub, a sink, a toilet, all covered in ivy like it had been there forever. We joked that it was Bigfoot's bathroom and kept walking. But by then, we both knew that we were lost. Hours had passed and nothing looked familiar anymore. We started arguing with each other about which direction to go, and we eventually split up, which was the worst mistake of my life. About 10 minutes later, I started hearing footsteps behind me. At first, I thought it was my friend trying to catch up, but every time I slowed down, the footsteps slowed down too. Every time I stopped, they stopped. Never actually saw anything behind me, but I could feel something following me through those woods for hours. Then, right before sunset, I saw something that made my stomach drop. I had somehow walked in a complete circle. I was standing in front of Bigfoot's bathroom again. That's when I heard the footsteps start coming closer. I yelled my friend's name as loud as I could. No answer. Then suddenly, whatever was behind me started running. I took off through the woods as fast as I could, and that's when I heard the bells. At first, I thought they were church bells somewhere in the distance, but when I looked up, I saw this enormous black cloud hanging over the trees. The center of it was darker than the night sky itself, and the bells, they were coming from inside the cloud. The sound was deafening. The whole thing looked like it was swirling slowly above me. I can't even explain the fear I felt looking at it. Something in my head kept screaming that if I didn't run, I was never getting out of those woods alive. So I ran blindly through the dark until I slammed into an old fence and I flew over it. I laid there for a second to breathe, trying to catch my breath, and realized the bells were finally gone. I followed the fence until I found a farmhouse, and the farmer drove me home. I was covered in cuts, exhausted, crying. And when I finally walked through my front door around 9 p.m., I realized something even worse. Nobody had been looking for me. And my friend had made it home shortly after we split up, which means I had been missing for about 5 hours. Welcome to my channel, Scary Carrie, where I tell scary stories. You can email me your scary stories to scarycarrie40@gmail.com. My email is also in my bio. I love scary stories that are located in the Appalachian Mountains or the Redwoods. So if you have a scary story that is located in one of those two places, please email me and let me know your scary story. Thanks for watching. The creepiest part wasn't seeing it. It was how normal it looked. Welcome to Scary Carrie, where I tell yours and mine scary stories. I found this story buried deep in a Reddit thread about the Appalachian Mountains, and honestly, it's one of the creepiest stories I've read in a long time. Let's jump into it. I grew up in eastern Kentucky near the Appalachian Mountains. Behind our house was a mountain trail just a few yards from our back door. Weird things happen there all the time, but a few moments are burned into my memory forever. One day, when I was around 6 years old, I was playing outside when I saw my older brother standing at the side of the house, motioning me to come around back. We weren't allowed to go back there, and honestly, I thought he was annoying and always trying to mess with me, so I ignored him and I went inside instead. But before I went in, I looked back and he was still there, staring at me around the corner. Creepy, really. So I walked inside and I froze instantly. My brother was already inside, sitting on the couch next to my mom, watching TV. I asked, "How did you get inside so fast?" And they both looked confused and said, "We've been inside all day." That alone terrified me. Less than a year later, it happened again. I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw my dad standing at the end of my bed in his forestry ranger uniform. And he looked furious, so I asked him, "What's wrong?" Without saying a word, he turned and walked into the next room. I followed him in there, and my real dad was already in there, asleep in his bed, wearing his boxer shorts, not in his uniform. Then, a few years later, something even worse happened. My little sister had her tonsils removed and was sleeping in my mom's room because she wasn't feeling well. My sister and I normally slept together. We had separate beds but shared a bedroom. And in the middle of the night, I felt someone shaking me awake. I rolled over and saw my sister standing beside my bed smiling at me. Not a normal smile, a huge, creepy smile. I told her, "Go back to sleep," but she kept shaking me and staring at me. Finally, I got so annoyed and I said, "Fine, let's go get Mom." She walked down the hallway ahead of me the entire time, smiling and making eye contact. When we reached my mom's bedroom, she slowly slipped inside. I walked in right behind her, and to my surprise, my sister was already in there, fast asleep in my mom's arms. I stayed awake in the living room that night until sunrise, and to this day, I still don't know what I saw, but whatever it was, it knew exactly how to look like the people I loved. That is so creepy. So what do you guys think that was? I think it was like a mimic. I know there's lots of stories about mimics in the Appalachian Mountains. I have a story of a mimic. I once saw my husband standing in our kitchen when he was not home. He was actually at work, so I will have to tell his story. But if you guys have any scary stories of your own like this, email them to me if you want them told to scarycarry40@gmail.com. Have a spooky night. Thanks for watching.
Make my house may be haunted by a new spirit. If you are new and you don't know who I am or what I do, I am a clairvoyant, a psychic, whatever you want to call me. I have all the clairsenses. I can see, hear, I have visions. I just know things. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I am very sensitive to the paranormal on the other side. So yeah, there's that. Anyways, I feel like we have a new spirit in the house and they are not letting me see them and they are not speaking to me. So it's a little hard to figure out who the spirit is. But the other day I was in here, I was ironing something and I had the lights on, and our iron is a German iron, so it wasn't messing with like the electricity or anything like that. I'm down here ironing, it's on very low, and the lights keep flickering in our bedroom. And I'm not talking like the light bulbs getting ready to go out. I'm talking all of them, all three of them were like flickering for a couple seconds at a time. I even called up my husband and was like, "Hey, are the lights upstairs going off or the TV going off?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Huh, okay, well, it's done it 3 times now." So at this point, I'm like, I'm going to set up the camera to catch whoever is doing this on camera. And of course, as soon as I set up the camera and I let it roll for 10 minutes, absolutely nothing happens. Absolutely nothing. I'm like, "You stinkhead, you do not want me to catch it on camera." Well, then yesterday I was in the bathroom upstairs getting ready to take a shower, and what's happening again? The lights are flickering again. So I'm like, "Who are you? What do you want?" Like, this isn't Stranger Things. I cannot communicate between light flickers, okay? I'm not going to pull a Joyce and put up the alphabet so you can tell me. Just come forward and talk to me. And of course, they do not. So even I'm talking to my guide and I'm like, "Frank, who is it?" And they're like, "I don't know. It's definitely a younger spirit," he said, but He doesn't know who they are. Like they're hiding, basically hiding from us. So I'm not really sure who or what that is. But yesterday I was vacuuming the house and I had my headphones on because I was listening to a podcast. I have noise canceling Bose headphones. You cannot hear anything unless it's extremely loud. Okay, so I've got the noise canceling headphones on, right? Listening to a podcast. No big deal. I come downstairs. This time I've got the broom because I had just swept the stairs down. So I don't use a vacuum. So the vacuum wasn't even running at this time. And I'm halfway through the hallway down here, like behind me. Oh, you guys can't see it. But halfway down through the hallway, sweeping along, I hear this crashing loud noise. So I stop and I go upstairs. I'm thinking the cat knocked something over or the cat and dog are playing and one of them knocked something over. So I go upstairs. The cat is passed out on her cat tower. The dog is laying on the love seat, like not afraid of anything. Like if something would have fell or crashed, she would have been like alert. She's just chilling. So I start walking around and I walked this whole dang house and nothing was out of place. Nothing had fallen. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So Will was like, well, maybe it was a podcast you were listening to. Well, joke's on him because I thought that too and I tried to debunk him. So I wound it by 1 minute. Let's do it again. There was no crashing sound on the podcast. So whatever I heard, I think was the spirit trying to get my attention. But we have a new ghost and we got to figure out who it is and what they want.
Dude, I have filmed this video like a million times, but this is my like secret account because I'm low-key embarrassed to make story times on my main account like this. So this account only has one person so far, which is my boyfriend, but this is a story time on why you should never walk home alone, even if it's a short distance at night, especially because there's a lot of weird people out there and you don't know their intentions and you don't know if they're mentally stable or not. And in this case, I'm pretty sure this person was not. So on this specific night, I was at the dollar store with my mom and my boyfriend was just getting off of work and it was about like 9:30 at night and I was at the dollar store trying to take $5 out of my account cash to give my mom for gas money, and I was also trying to buy this like heart ceramic like jewelry dish thing, and that was a whole night. We ended up shutting down both of the tills because they don't do money like cash back after your purchase from your account, so both the tills stopped working and everyone had to leave without buying what they were planning on buying. So that was fun. Everyone was pissed. But right when we were leaving, sorry, I use my hands a lot when I talk. My boyfriend had texted me or called me. I can't remember. But he said that the place I usually get dropped off by my mom, because she can't take me by the house, it's a long story. There was this girl. My boyfriend was in an Uber and she was walking and this girl looked to be about our age, which is 18, and was wearing a long light pink dress, no shoes, no socks, and had long black hair holding a teddy bear. So he got pretty creepy, so I started freaking out. I was like, I have to walk home when she's just out exactly at the place where I'm getting dropped off? Hell no. Anyways, my boyfriend comes to the market where I get dropped off to pick me up and walk me home. And he picks me up and walks me home. And I forgot to mention, on the way to the market with my mom, I thought I saw this girl that looked to be just wearing socks and like a light pink dress. Like I only saw like the bottom of like where her ankles and feet were, getting into this car ahead of us. But that wasn't her, I don't think. It might have just been another girl, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So my boyfriend and me walk home and I text my mom and I tell her that we make it. And a little bit later on in the night, she texts me. She was like, hey, I saw that weirdo chick walking. She was walking the opposite direction of where we live, thankfully. But she wasn't 18. my mom said that she could tell she was a grown woman. So yeah, that's like straight up out of a horror movie. When I tell you that shit freaks me out, that shit freaks me out. But moral of the story is people be in their own little bubbles, and they don't really be thinking that anything bad can happen, especially close to home. But you'd be surprised at what types of people and things are lurking out there in the dark, especially at night. So watch your surroundings, be diligent, and stay safe, especially at night. Carry something on you, because especially if you're a girl, you don't really got hands, carry something on you. Have a good night or day.
So Sierra herself was never a huge believer in the paranormal until she moved from the inner parts of a big city to the outskirts, to a little townhouse right off of a very woodsy road. So after she purchased it, she didn't move fully in for quite a while because she wanted to renovate it. There were some things that needed to be done. Now, she did say whenever she slept over and slept downstairs, there was a vibe. Like, she usually had to have it completely silent and dark, and she liked it silent because she lived alone and she wanted to hear if something was up, you know? But on this night, something was just off. She actually ended up having to get up and turn on the stair light because she couldn't sleep in the dark. Right as she's about half asleep, she hears like a cartoonish growl in her ear. So she jumps up, thinking that someone's in her house, notices she definitely fell asleep at some point because it's now daylight-ish outside, and looks all around the house to find nothing there. She was not the only person to have weird experiences. There were also some workers that were complaining. One that kept getting brought up was that her brand new washer kept turning on. They were like, hey, it's wasting water. We don't want you to think we're doing it, but like, it keeps turning on. And so she's like, I just bought that, so let me call up this company to have someone come look at it. And they come like same day to find nothing wrong with the washer or the plumbing. So after construction wraps up, Sierra decides she does not like being in that house by herself and actually rescues a German Shepherd soon after. But this German Shepherd would not chill in this house. He would just whine and bark and growl at this stair area. But there was one bedroom in particular in that house that was so bad, Sierra had to move her craft stuff out of it. She couldn't even sit in there to do her crafts, and that was the downstairs bedroom. Her mom would come over sometimes and get ready for work in the house, and she would get ready in that downstairs bedroom and bathroom. She would make Sierra sit in there with her because she was so scared of being in there by herself. Not too long after moving in, Sierra made friends with a neighbor, and that is how she found out the story of the past tenants there. The past owner wife actually was still alive. She had left the state and moved when her husband passed away in the house. He had been really sick and she just couldn't stay there anymore, and he was in the downstairs bedroom. As soon as she found this out, she went back to her house, acknowledged him by name, and said, hey, I'm not going to bother you. I need you to not bother me. Well, she didn't live there for too long, and whenever she did sell a few years later, her last words when she was leaving the house was to this man, telling him to be good to his next guest. Her and her dog are out. They're living with her mom, and they're happy, healthy, and safe, and that is all we can ask.
Did you know you're not supposed to whistle in the Appalachian woods? The story comes in from a listener. Let's dive in. When I was 12 years old, my uncle used to own this cabin out in the woods of the Appalachian Mountains, and we used to spend the summers there playing, hanging out, me and my cousins. And the adults would always tell us, no whistling outside. And when we would ask them why, they would just say, it's rude. One weekend, my uncle had to go out of town for work, and me, my cousin Tyler, and his best friend, we decided we were going to go camping in the woods that night, all alone. First, everything seemed pretty normal. I mean, we built a fire, we would tell scary stories, we even scared ourselves a little. But then around 1 a.m., my cousin Tyler, he started joking around about the whistling rule. His friend, he was curious, and he asked, what is the whistling rule, and what happens if you whistle? And Tyler was like, nothing happens. It's just something that our parents made up to scare us. So then out of nowhere, my cousin Tyler was like, see, watch. And he started whistling. And immediately, the entire woods felt like it went darker and quieter. And I remember getting this horrible feeling because it was just so unsettling how quiet it was. And then not even 10 seconds later, we heard a whistle come back. And it sounded like it came from inside the woods. And it was weird. It was like it was trying to copy his whistle, but it wasn't getting it right. Tyler started laughing and he was like, there must be somebody else out here camping too. Tyler, he decided he was gonna whistle again, and this time the whistle that came back sounded even closer, but this time it was even more off. It sounded slow and sharp. Now everybody's starting to get freaked out, and my cousin, being my cousin, decided he was gonna whistle again. This time he did a long pattern of a whistle, and this time the woods answered immediately, and the sound was right beside the cabin. We all ran inside so fast that we almost tripped over the steps going up into the cabin. And at first, nothing happened. There was no sound, no movement, nothing. Out of nowhere, it came. 3 knocks. Right inside the walls. Not outside the walls, inside the walls. My cousin kind of looked around and he peeked out the window, and I knew he saw something immediately because his face just looked so sickly. But I decided I was gonna go look out the window to see what he saw, and I wish I didn't, because what I saw looked like a figure of a man, but it was too tall, way too tall to be a person. But what I could tell is its head was slanted, like it was watching us. And out of nowhere, without even being prompted or us doing it first, we heard the whistle. We made sure all the doors and windows were locked, and we went into the corner of the living room and we stayed there all night. None of us were able to sleep. My uncle got back. We told him what we did and what we heard, and he got furious. Not shocked, not mad. He was furious. He asked us one simple question. Did you hear the whistle before or after the woods went silent? And when Tyler answered him, my uncle looked at us and said, well, it heard you then. To this day, none of us will whistle outside at all, even though we are adults now. And we still don't know what it was we saw that night. Thank you so much for sending me this story. This almost sounds like a mimic, but I don't understand why it would be so tall. Maybe that's a mimic thing. I'm not sure. If you know, drop it in the comments. Leave me your opinions. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. As always, stay strange, stay blessed, share this out. And if you have any stories, send it to my email. It's in the bio.
The Appalachian Mountains are older than bones, like they're older than Saturn's rings. They've been around for a really, really, really long time. And the deeper you go into them, the stranger people get. A lot of the locals of this place will tell you that there are just places that you simply do not want to go. And it's not because of the wildlife, it's because of the people or the creatures that look like people. First of all, the Appalachian Mountains are freaking huge. There's millions of acreage of dense forest, endless ridges, hollers, rivers, banks, cave systems, abandoned mining shafts. I can't speak English. Put it into big perspective for you. There are places in this forest that you could go and nobody could hear you scream for miles. You are so far away from civilization that if you tried your hardest, nobody could hear you. You wouldn't even run into another person for miles and miles and miles in a certain direction. Historically, there were families that became pretty isolated out there, actually. Some communities were so cut off from civilization that people almost forgot that they even existed out there. They were basically like their own version of the Centennial tribe, however you say it. Centennial tribe, how do you say that? You know what I'm talking about. But whatever, they were like their own little version of that, basically. They had no schooling, no electricity, no running water, and genuinely just no contact with the outside world. Or the inside world, I should say. People out there hear mimic voices of their family members, creepy weird whistling in the woods that you are never supposed to respond to, by the way. Big years watching them from the tree line. Tiny little fires off in the distance where nobody should be. There are so many stories of hunters coming across these like little makeshift shacks or like little buildings, whatever, made out of like, you know, scraps that somebody may have found in the river or just randomly in the woods. There was a story that I read on Reddit recently of a person who was camping out in the Appalachian wilderness, and he and his girlfriend, heard like physical walking around the tent that was bipedal walking. They said that they could hear walking around their tent for hours and then like a soft whispering. But every time that they looked outside with their flashlights, there would be nothing there. Until one of them finally caught movement near the trees. He described what looked like a man crouched down off in the woods, like in the tree line, like crouched unnaturally low to the ground, just staring directly at him. No shoes, long tangled up hair. And he said that the eyes were reflecting almost like an animal's eyes would. And then he said that the figure disappeared almost as soon as the flashlight light hit it. Then the next morning the couple found footprints all around their tent. And bitch, not just any footprints, bare human footprints. Yeah. Another hiker claimed that he accidentally like wandered off of the trail and ended up stumbling across this like makeshift civilization with like crudely built shelters, like I was saying earlier, crudely built shelters like between the rocks and the trees of just scrap metal and rocks and whatever you can find out there. And the more that he explored the area, the more he found like the rusted tools or like the handmade makeshift tools that they were making. And there was like smoke rising deeper within the trees and stuff. Your breath really stinks, my friend. Then he said the second that his mind registered that there were people living there, the forest went completely silent. And I mean, no birds, no sound of the wind even like whooshing through the trees, nada. And that's when he started to feel uneasy, so he started to like, you know, check his surroundings, which would be when he noticed the people off in the distance staring directly at him. They were all kind of like peeking out behind trees, kind of like they were trying to decide whether or not he was a threat. Needless to say, he turned around and left immediately, which is what any sane person would do. It's just so creepy. There are hidden cave systems throughout those mountains. There are abandoned mining tunnels. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the creepypasta called Baraska, but if not, you should read it because I think it's about like, if I remember correctly, it's about like a mining town in the Ozarks, which kind of reminds me of this whole thing. But anyways, that's a different rabbit hole. But there are so many people that go missing in these woods and are just never found. Tell me how that's even possible. There are also families living out there who have just been living off-grid for generations, and that's all they know. There was a story that I read on Reddit of this guy who was out hunting in the Appalachian woods, not like it was a part of the woods where he was allowed to be hunting. And all of a sudden he came across this little boy who had like this pack of what the guy thought was toy arrows on his back. And it turns out that they were real arrows. And he found out real quick when the kid started shooting them directly at him, and one hit him in the back of the leg. So this guy drew his gun on the kid and didn't actually shoot him because the kid was like actually frightened by the sight of the gun. And so the kid like haphazardly tried to shoot another arrow at him, and then he ran off into the woods. And this guy described this kid as being like unsightly, like the hills have eyes type look. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Which is crazy because there is actual literal documented history of feral children living out in those woods as well. There was this YouTube video that I watched of an old Appalachian woman telling stories from her childhood. And she said that there were like certain ridges that children were just not allowed to play at. And it wasn't because there was any dangers like falling off of a cliff or like, you know, a rushing river or anything like that. It was because the people in the woods. She said that she remembered adults getting visibly worried and like super uneasy when they saw that children were wandering a little bit too close to this certain ridge. One night her grandfather heard dogs going ballistic outside. He did what any man would do and he went outside with a flashlight, and then he ended up seeing a man off in the tree line just standing there outside. At least it was something that looked like a man. It was like super tall, extremely thin. It was super dirty and it had just no expression. The grandfather yelled at it and it didn't even have a normal reaction. It kind of like gave him a little smirk and then ran back into the forest on all fours. Huh? That's not the first time I've heard a story like that either. Which is why I'm saying like there's so many stories that like you just gotta take this stuff into consideration. Like it's not a big fairy tale. It's not. This place is fucking scary.
Howdy gang, I'm here today to talk about something a little bit different, and that is a really bizarre paranormal experience I had that I've never been able to forget about. I've just hit 1k hair in my mouth. I've just hit 1k followers on TikTok. So I thought, as a little celebration, as I do on Instagram, I would share a paranormal story time. And this one is so odd. This one is really, really weird. If you're new here or you've not been following me for very long, I'm very susceptible and good at picking up on spookies and ghosts and ghoulies. Not professionally, but I'm not really in control of it. My family, basically, down my maternal line, have been mediums and tarot readers and things. That's why I'm a tarot reader. My nan taught me to read tarot cards. Anyway, I'm nervous talking about this story. I'm so sorry. So this experience happened to me in a hotel in Winchester, England. I can't tell you which hotel, partly because privacy, partly also because I just don't remember. I don't remember which hotel it was, but it wasn't a hotel where you would expect something like this to happen. Obviously, Winchester's an extremely old city. I've got multiple paranormal things that have happened to me there, so stick around for those another time, but I was staying in a hotel for my graduation. I really want to emphasize this was not a creepy hotel. I was not thinking of anything weird or creepy. I was just thinking of my graduation, and it was the next day. So I hopped into the shower. Nothing spooky on my mind. I'm not somebody who gets like freaked out with shower curtains or anything like that. Or I wasn't. No more dilly-dallying. What happened was I was in the shower and I just see my voice is shaking. I was in the shower and I just see a hand come around the curtain. But not just a hand, a green, grey, rotten almost looking hand just came around and grabbed the shower curtain. And in the split second that I see this happen and I'm like, oh my god, someone who is weirdly green and grey, my immediate panic was just like, somebody's about to see me in the shower, someone's gotten into my room. Next thing I know, this curtain's being yanked back and I see somebody or something who is about 4 foot tall, maybe 4.5 foot tall, looking at me. And this all happens in like a couple of seconds, but I see that they're greyish green and they're just kind of, they look directly at me, they stare at me for a second, and then they just pull the curtain back. There's no sound of them walking away, they're just gone. I pull the curtain back, this person's disappeared. And all of this happened in like 2 or 3 seconds. I'm just kind of trying to process this in real time, like, was that a child? It kind of looked like a child, but it didn't look like somebody who was fully human. So was it a child? Was it some kind of like elemental thing? I don't actually know, but I do know that the only way I can explain the way that they looked was, like, you know, American Werewolf in London? Apologies for the spoilers if you haven't seen it, but there's somebody who was like increasingly decaying in it. I won't spoil it any more than that, but there's a character and it kind of looked like him. I'll put a little thing of him here. Obviously it wasn't exactly like that, like I wasn't just hallucinating the guy from American Werewolf in London, but that was like the kind of colour and vibe. So I don't know if I was seeing somebody who was a ghost who was like just appearing as decayed. I don't know if I was looking at somebody who wasn't a person. I don't know. It didn't feel, despite the fact that it was really scary and kind of odd, it didn't feel dark. I didn't get like a dark energy, but I don't understand what it was what I saw and why they wanted to look at me in the shower for like 3 seconds. What did they think? What were they seeing the same world as me? Was it like a weird, I don't know. It was just so weird. It's one of the weirdest. I've had a lot of paranormal experiences in my time. It's up there ranked as like one of the most top bizarre, because how random is that? I know for a fact that there's a big thing with seeing fae or like seeing elementals, however you prefer to call them, before like big changes or big events. And obviously the next day was my graduation. So I don't know if it's something to do with that. Could be so. My graduation itself, lovely. 10 out of 10. Amazing. Nothing else weird happened. Just sort of weird guy or someone pulling back my shower curtain. Yeah. Thanks so much again for 1K. If you would like to stick around, not only for more spooky stuff, because I have so many and I'm always having more experiences. I live in a haunted home, so that's that. Yeah, or if you would like tarot readings and things, stick around, because that's obviously my main thing, along with some witchy tips and different shenanigans. And yeah, thank you again for 1K. Thank you for listening to my weird-ass paranormal story.
The Queen Mary has been docked in Long Beach, California since 1967. She hasn't moved in almost 60 years, but something on that ship still remains very active. This is a viewer submission, and their name is Lucas, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading this story. Welcome back to After Midnight Stories, where it's too late to be logical, but too early to care. And we tell stories that we think no one would believe, but we believe you here. In the summer of 2018, the family of 4 flew to Southern California for vacation. They decided to stay on the Queen Mary, one of the most documented haunted locations in the United States. They knew the stories, they weren't worried. But they should have been. The moment they boarded, their father got sick, threw up, right at the entrance, and they laughed it off. Then the phones started dying, batteries draining for no reason, their digital camera it just stopped working, no explanation. They told me it felt like the ship was rejecting them from the moment that they arrived. Because the ship is permanently docked, the family would go on and off the boat each day exploring Long Beach. One night on their way back, they decided to go to the front of the ship and recreate the Titanic scene. We all know that one. When a crew member stopped them and pointed toward the undercarriage where the propellers sit. That area right there, he said, that's the most haunted part of this entire ship. They didn't ask why, and they didn't really want to know why. Later that evening, his family wanted to explore the radio room. That's where the ship's wireless operators sent Morse code transmissions, the communication hub when the Queen Mary was still at sea. Lucas didn't go in. He stayed on the deck, starboard side, while his family toured the room. He was alone. There was a hallway near where he was standing, old, dark, the kind of corridor that doesn't get cleaned the same way that the rest of the ship does. The bathrooms were down that hall. At the end of that hallway, there was a figure, completely black, translucent, a silhouette. It was a woman in a wedding dress. Lucas ran. He didn't say a word to his family. He didn't want to be looked at. That night, the family decided to go ghost hunting around the ship. They weren't the only ones doing it. The Queen Mary offers ghost tours. Their route took them to the Red Staircase. When the ship was still in operation, crew members fell down those stairs, multiple deaths. It's called the Red Staircase because of the paint that they used to cover. At the bottom of the stairs was the pottery room. The room is near the public, but you can't fully see inside. The windows are opaque. Lucas leaned in and looked through anyway. 2 yellow circles. Lucas thought it was a light, then they moved. He jumped back from the window and ran up the stairs, said, "I'm hungry, I want to go." Nobody questioned it. That night, Lucas slept with his parents. His dad and his brother went back out, still ghost hunting, while he stayed in the room with his mom to watch TV. He never told anyone what he saw, not that night. He told me that tech malfunctions, his dad getting sick, and the figure in the hallway, the yellow circles in the pottery room, he doesn't have an explanation for any of it. But he knows what he saw. And Lucas, we believe you here.
In my opinion, these are the cryptids that are most likely to be real, okay? Number one is going to be Bigfoot. A lot of people always say, well, where are the bodies at? Why wouldn't we find them? Do you guys not realize that, like, gorillas are just recently a discovered thing? Like, when the movie King Kong came out and it was so famous, that was because we just officially discovered gorillas. Like, for centuries, people were like, yeah, there's gorillas up in the mountains. And we're like, no, there's not. No, there's not. There was. Okay, the other thing is people always say, well, we would have been digging up bones, we'd find the bodies. I don't know if you all are aware how quickly things decompose in the woods, and like wild gorillas and wild chimpanzees and stuff, they bury each other. Like, they literally bury each other. And they have like funerals and stuff. It's pretty impressive. It's pretty crazy. Now, the supernatural part of it, if you believe what the Native Americans believe about Bigfoot, and what a lot of people are now all saying as well, is that he can cloak himself. He's an interdimensional being. He's almost more of like a spirit that can come and go into our reality. And a lot of people say that that's why he is not photographed well. Everybody's always like, oh, the photos are always blurry. It's always this. And a lot of other people are saying that's just how Bigfoot looks. He looks blurry. Like the little boy that I did the story on that supposedly got taken by Bigfoot and then was later recovered. He talked about the fuzzy people. And he said, not fuzzy like Harry, fuzzy like TV static. And it might be because they're not always in our plane of existence. I think that's honestly my favorite theory about it. People talk about the Glimmer Man, which is a whole separate cryptid event, creature, human. But a lot of people say that Glimmer Man and Bigfoot are the same thing. Which, if you haven't seen Glimmer Man, I'll do that next. Glimmer Man is like when you're in the woods or you see a photo, or sometimes it happens in the middle of cities. you'll just see like an area that is blurry, almost like, when you're watching TV and they blur out like a kid's face or somebody who didn't want to be photographed, they blur their face out. You'll see like an area that looks like that. I did a video the other night talking about how on the trees behind my house one time I could see this like blurry spot, and I was like, what? At first I thought something was on the window, and then I was like, no, that's not on the window. That's like that tree. Like that spot is blurry for some reason. Could never figure it out. I talked about it a little bit on here, and so many people had that encounters with like blurry, fuzzy, something just wasn't right and distorted place. And sometimes people see it moving. Sometimes people see it just stay in one spot. The most famous story of one moving was the story of a lady that was out hiking or deer hunting, and the whole town saw a UFO at a football game. It's actually one of the most well-documented UFO sightings. And this lady was like hiking or hunting somewhere near this football stadium. It's a small town. And around that time it was reported, she actually saw a blurry figure jumping from the trees, like from one tree to the other, almost kind of exactly like the movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that's another one. The other one that I've really got on here is Mothman. Mothman is seen so many times, and there's been so many times that people have came together and said, oh, we saw Mothman, and there's like these mass Mothman sightings, and then like a horrible tragedy happens immediately after. Like a mass casualty event, like really bad car wrecks on the bridge that he gets sighted on, or wherever he gets sighted. There's like a bridge collapse one time where he was sighted on there. And he's been sighted so many times in the same general area for like almost 100 years. They even have a statue of the dude. People come from all over the country to see him. And of course they're playing into it for tourist stuff, but at the end of the day, there's always like a note of truth in every like rumor or conspiracy or, whatever. And I think that it's pretty wild that he's been so commonly reported so many times. And the description has pretty much always stayed the same. And it's never like he's really doing anything. It's almost like he's an ominous figure. Like if you see him, something bad's about to happen. It's a pretty strange rabbit hole to go down if you want to look up the Mothman conspiracies and tragedies and things. Speaking of tragedies and horrible stuff, the Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil is, I think, possibly where just somebody successfully summoned a demon. If you look in the Jersey Devil, I'm not going to get into it on here because the video will likely get flagged because it's so gruesome and so horrific, of the true events, like the real story event that inspired like what happened next, which is what we now know of as the Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil, most people describe it as like a very slender, almost dog-like creature that has wings, but it's very tall, almost like, imagine like a very lanky, withered werewolf that has wings and the ability to fly. But a lot of people also describe it as having the head of a goat. There's varying details on here. I hear a lot of goat, man, winged creature type stuff, but anyhow, it has been so consistently sighted in that area, and the true events that did happen, I'm like, well, they might have just really summoned something. They might have been successful there. The next one is Green Eyes. So if you guys haven't seen Old Green Eyes or heard about Old Green Eyes, I don't think that Old Green Eyes is the right depiction to call it. I think that was just one of a species of what's called a fear eater. If you've never heard of fear eaters, they're essentially things that are almost like dark shadow type figures, ominous figures. Sometimes they have physical manifestations and shapes. Sometimes they can look humanoid. Sometimes they appear as like dogmen. But most of the time it's just like a dark shadowy figure. And they don't really seem to ever want to harm you or do anything to you except make you scared. If they chase you, they're never going to catch you. It's just, they don't want you to eat. They want your emotions to eat. And Old Green Eyes is the most famous fear eater, I guess. If you look at the stories of the Civil War, this is before internet, this is before newspapers, this is before telephones even. And Old Green Eyes was reported amongst so many different camps that would have not had communication with each other, spread far apart. I mean, like the exact same, it gets really creepy when you start looking at all the old actual written down journal logs of Green Eyes. So Old Green Eyes, apparently after a battle would be done, like say the Battle of Gettysburg is a famous place where he was seen at. After the battle was done, there's thousands of dead soldiers on the field or wounded soldiers on the field. And he would be seen hovering over the ones that were still clinging to life, but they were eventually going to die. And it was like it was almost like he would be sucking just that fear and terror and trauma. I mean, imagine laying there knowing you're going to die. I can't imagine how scared you'd be, the sorrow you would have, you know, and apparently this cloaked black figure, almost like made out of smoke, would kind of float over these bodies. And the only physical description people would describe is neon bright green eyes. That's where he got his name, Old Green Eyes. And people would talk about how he would be lurking there. Like the night before a battle, people would report seeing him hiding among the trees, just waiting for the bloodshed to start. But also, you know, the night before a battle, everybody's scared, everybody's tense. And it was like he was just drawing off that energy. Some people said that he might have even been spurring that energy to make it worse, to make people more aggressive and more, you know, inclined to violence. So Old Green Eyes is definitely up there on my list. These aren't really cryptids. These are creatures that were, you know, once to believe to be extinct, but I think could definitely still be out there. And it's the Kraken, and Megalodon, all of those big giant prehistoric creatures. If you guys didn't know, they did find the skeleton of what we now know would be the legendary Kraken the other day. Like that's no longer a myth that the Kraken exists. That's just a real fact we now have to live with, because they found the sediment remains of a octopus. Before you guys come and attack me that octopus don't have bones, they can't leave fossils, you're going to really trip out when you figure out that we have fossils of like plants and leaves and all kinds of stuff that don't have bones. Bones are not required to make fossils. You're getting skeletons and fossils completely mixed up. And then also the Megalodon, you know, I think that they could be deep into the trenches. I think when we talk about hearing the Blue 52 sounds, like there's just so much stuff out there in the world that we don't know anything about, that we pretend that we do. And scientists do not like to say, we don't know. They like to say, yeah, we know exactly that this can't be real. Like there was a fish off the coast of Africa that they thought was extinct for like 150,000 years, like something stupid. And then now we know that like they're still alive and there's like a decent population of them. We just didn't see them. And this fish was like not a small fish. Like this is a damn near human-sized fish. And there's like not even like a few of them, and they're not even that deep. There's a lot of them, and they're just in this one spot now. It's just, you know, we always pretend like we don't know that, you know, we always pretend like we know everything. It's just so stupid. And regional variance is another thing that, like, you know, that kind of sounded like I was talking about Pokemon, but we always talk about like how, oh, if there was a Bigfoot, they'd be everywhere. Or if there was a this or that, it would be everywhere. There was a Jersey Devil, it'd be everywhere. No, there are tons of creatures that we know of that only exist in very, 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 very minute places. There's a whole species of fish that only lives in one cave in the entire world. And the pool that this fish lives in is like maybe 30 feet, like 40 feet. Like it is this, like, it's a glorified puddle, right? And that's the only place in the world this species of fish lives, and we know it lives there. Like, scientists go there and check them out. It's a very, very, very protected area, but there's like a cave in this desert that holds water, and the species of fish has been isolated to this one puddle. Like, you could wipe out its entire existence by going in there with a vacuum cleaner, and they're done, you know? Like, it is that minute of a population. So when people get this in their head that, oh, if this cryptid was over here, it'd be everywhere. No, it wouldn't. It is very, very, very possible for there to be a very perfect biome for a creature to live in, and it can't live anywhere else. So get that out of your head, you know. Like the Himalayan mountains, for example, and they talk about the Yetis and stuff. I'm not really sold that a Yeti is a Bigfoot. A lot of people say, oh, yeah, Yeti's just like the snow variant of the Bigfoot. And I'm not sold on that. I think the Yeti is probably a physical snow monkey, snow gorilla, whatever you want to call it. And people are like, oh, well, primates couldn't live up there. Yeah, they can. Like, there's a whole species of monkeys that lives up there that like just gets in the hot springs when they get cold. You know, in the high up in the mountains and stuff. Like there are all kinds of creatures that can survive extreme temperatures that their very close relatives and cousins cannot. You know, for example, you cannot get a beaver will not freeze to death. A capybara will freeze to death at 60 degrees. At 55 degrees. So, I mean, you take two creatures that are very closely related that have two different biomes that they can live in, you know. So, once again, look at real life animals for cryptid info, and you can match a lot of it up really cool. Loch Ness Monster, I think it's up there. You know, I don't know if you guys know about the Loch Ness Monster stuff with the, you know, Loch Ness, the lake. That lake is really the ocean. I mean, that it connects to the ocean. They have found whale DNA and dolphin DNA and like squid DNA in Loch Ness. And what that means is that wherever the whale or dolphin was peeing and pooping at or whatever, it was somehow getting into Loch Ness, which means Loch Ness is connected somehow to the ocean. And we still don't know exactly how it's connected to the ocean. So if we can't even figure out how the sumbitch is connected to the ocean, we can't say what is in there and what is not in there. Loch Ness is so deep that at the bottom of it, it's pitch black. It's pitch black dark. You can't even see down there. Like, even if you get a submarine go around there, pitch black, can't see. And it's a very dark colored water anyhow. So I really do think that Loch Ness and Loch Ness Monster has at least a possibility. I'm not saying that I'm 100% saying it's in there. Of course not. I'm just saying if we can't even figure out how this thing connects to the ocean, we have no idea what could come and go or what deep pocket of the ocean this could be connected to. We have no idea, right? We have no idea. We know that a lot of large aquatic creatures can live an extraordinarily long life. So the Loch Ness Monster we know of today might be the one freaking plesiosaur left over that knows the route to get in there and goes through that route all the time and hangs out. We don't know. And we always pretend that we have all the answers, and we don't. How can you say there's no Loch Ness Monster, and then you ask the same scientist, well, how does that connect to the ocean? They're like, we don't know. Okay, so you don't know anything, really, because if you can't find one big-ass tunnel in Lake Loch Ness, then you can't find the Loch Ness Monster. Okay? That's just as simple as that. Now, moving on, other supernatural creatures that I think could be real that are like cryptids. I'm not talking about demons and spirits and all that kind of stuff right now, because I think fear eaters, like I talked about a minute ago, can take a very physical form. I don't think that's just purely a spirit or a demon. I'm talking about creatures that have a physical form. And that's going to go to the chupacabra next. Chupacabras, I think, are a real species that we have just not identified yet. As a wildlife expert, I have looked at way too many reports of animals that have had their blood drained. Down there, it just doesn't make sense. It's one of the only places in the world where animals routinely have their blood drained, and we can't explain why. And, is that a creature that's doing that? I would think so. It's probably a very isolated population of creatures. Who knows? I mean, for example, take a coatimundi. A coatimundi is a South American raccoon, essentially. Central American raccoon. And they'll take an egg, and they'll take their long nails, and they'll actually poke a hole in the eggshell and suck the yolk out of the egg, and the egg looks completely undisturbed. And the reason why they do this is when the birds aren't watching their nest or the reptiles aren't watching their nest, they'll poke a hole in the egg yolk and suck the egg yolk out, so that way when the bird comes back, it doesn't know that any of its eggs have been damaged, so it will continue to lay eggs there. This is a very tricky way for a coatimundi to keep getting eggs out of the same nest instead of smashing all the eggs and then the bird moving on somewhere else. It can routinely visit this nest over and over again when the mama bird or the mama reptile is not watching. So think about that. They poke a hole in it, and they're so delicate with it, they don't break an eggshell. Now imagine an animal that is just bigger that has the attributability to be able to suck blood out, after making a small puncture hole, which is exactly what tons of reports have filled in. And I'm not just talking farmer reports. I'm talking biologists have gone down there, checked it out, and they're like, oh yeah, we don't know what that is. In there for a while, I was pretty positive they were going to say the chupacabra was real, and it was a subspecies of coyotes. But then they kind of backpedaled on that, and then there's really been no talk about it since. I don't think it's like some kind of crazy lizard creature. I really do think it's some creature that has just adapted the way it eats and what it wants to eat. And the same creature could be responsible for killing chickens and cattle and eating them in the conventional way as well. This just might be just something weird they do sometimes. That's just a theory I've got. Okay. Do I think that reptilians are real and lizard people? That is one that I've never bought into. Never bought into reptilians or lizard people. A lot of people like to talk about it, the Dracoven or whatever they like to say it is. I don't like that one. I don't think it's plausible. I don't think it's real. I think if there looks like there's lizard people, I think it's just some kind of deep fake cosmetics that we use. I don't think that Justin Bieber's a lizard or like these other people are reptilians. Now, could they be all in some kind of like ancient bloodline that stick together and watch out for their own? 100%. I definitely, if you go down rabbit holes of like celebrities, no matter how humble their beginnings seem, you can almost always link them to another either famous person or rich person that's not famous, but they're rich. Like almost every single time, if you dig deep enough, like you'll find a way that they had a connection on the inroad there. Not saying they're all that way. Just saying that, like, we did multiple videos of how they're all, like, for example, almost all the presidents we've ever had are related to each other. Like, even George Bush and Barack Obama are literally cousins. Like, they're literally cousins. Sarah Palin is also their cousin. Brad Pitt is Obama's cousin. It's George Bush's cousin, too. Like, you want to go down that rabbit hole, it is super weird. So do I think reptilians are real? No. Do I think that there is some ancient bloodline that sticks together and watches out for themselves and makes sure that they're the only ones in the inner circle? Yeah, I definitely think that can happen there. I think that's part of it. Vampires, let's talk about the big ones. Let's talk about vampires. Do I think vampires are real? Yes. I think that vampires, I don't have the same thought that you guys are going to have about that vampires, though. I really do think at some point our government made a deal with vampires, and that's what the U.S. National Park systems are. I think U.S. National Park systems are dedicated, marked off hunting grounds for vampires. That's why people go missing there sometimes and are never found, or they're found in really mysterious ways. Because I think that was areas for them to say, okay, let's not make a major city here. Let's let them have their hunting grounds. Kind of like when you watch Twilight and they have like the treaty of where they're allowed to hunt and where they're not allowed to hunt. And I think it's like, hey, they've got their hunting grounds. We're going to lose some hikers here and there. Those people are kind of crazy anyhow. Who wants to get up at 5 a.m. and go, march around for 20 hours in the heat? We can afford to lose those people. And everybody else, you just leave them alone. If they're in the city, you leave them alone. If they're in town, you leave them alone. If they're on their farms, leave them alone. They go in the national parks and they want to hike for no freaking reason, yeah, take them out. Okay, I think that's kind of what we did at some point in time with the deal with vampires. It's strange. I know I've got a weird view on it. That's my take on it. Okay, werewolves. Do I think werewolves are real? No, I'm not a big werewolf fan. I'm a Dogman fan all day. I think those are two very different things. Do I think that there are some kind of apex wolves out there? Yeah, I'll buy into that. We did whole stories about the Beast of Godot and, all these different mega wolves that used to exist. Like, people don't realize that mega wolves used to exist. And when I say mega wolves, I'm not talking dire wolves. I'm talking mega wolves. And what a mega wolf is a wolf that has supernatural intellect. And I don't mean supernatural. It's just a wolf that's way above average intelligence. There was a single wolf in France, and they knew this wolf. It was a big female wolf as the leader of its pack. She took out over 50 people, and most of them were armed. She had scars all over. I mean, something like out of an anime or a movie or something. Like, and they knew her. Like, she was given a nickname. I mean, and she was just taking out people left and right. Like, they literally went to war with these packs of wolves. And you don't see super wolves anymore, really. And I think that's why we hunted them so much. And I really do think that's why the government kind of doesn't. I want to go ahead and say this. The government really doesn't care about wolf populations. If they did, they would be handling things way different. I think they kind of realized that wolves had the ability to get extremely intelligent and would systematically hunt down people. Like the Beast of Govando or whatever that is. I can't pronounce it right. That wolf killed like hundreds of people. Like hundreds. That singular wolf killed hundreds of people. And a lot of times this is where the stories of werewolves come from, is when wolf populations were huge. Now, I wish that wolves were still flourishing. Do not get me wrong. I'm all for animals. That's our thing, obviously. We have resident wolves that live here with us. But I can see where they're coming from. Like, wolves were the only routinely animal that was like hunting people down. Like in the European days, oh my God, Europe still exists, obviously. In the medieval days, like over in Europe, like it was pretty common for your village to literally be plagued by wolves. Like, wolves would find a village and they would stalk that village until all the kids were gone, essentially. Like, go ahead and look it up for yourself. There are so many reports of like major wolf casualties back like 300 and 400 years ago. Like, a lot of them. And I think that's where the story of Little Red Riding Hood and all that stuff comes from, is they're literally tales about why you shouldn't go in the woods alone, because almost guaranteed a wolf is going to get you. Like, it's going to get you. There's tons of wolves that would singly only eat human babies and children. It was to the point where some of these stories said the wolves would actually come in your windows at night and they would steal the babies out of the cribs. Like, it was that extreme. Not even making that up. Moving on. I went on a long tangent there. Don't hurt wolves. We love them. But a super wolf would be concerning. Okay. Moving on. Do I think that, like, mermaids are real? Our daughter is named after a mermaid, like the original mermaid, Lorelei. which would like lure sailors to their death. Now we now know that Lorelei, the original Lorelei, was a rock off the coast of Ireland. If you haven't seen that rock, it's called Lorelei Rock. The way the wind hits this rock, I mean, I swear to God, it sounds just like a woman going, ah! It sounds like somebody screaming because the way this rock is shaped, the wind bounces off of it. Sailors, back before all the modern technology of navigation systems and lights, would go looking for a woman that had fallen into the water, and bam, they'd hit Lorelei Rock or the other rocks around Lorelei Rock, and they would sink their ship. And it was like 20 feet off the coast, but the coast was like a straight up and down cliff, so they couldn't even swim to safety there. You couldn't climb it. It was too steep. So Lorelei Rock, it's pretty crazy. Original story of mermaids. Do I think mermaids are real? Yes. Okay. Yeah, I do. I think the whole Gerald the Dolphin thing that happened recently was probably some kind of mermaid shit. I think that we were mermaids a long time ago, like in our evolutionary line. And this once again comes from an animal expert, point of view. There's only two animals that sweat, pretty much, and it's us and horses. Okay, pigs roll in mud, dogs pant. Most animals, especially non-primate animals, do not sweat. Okay, humans sweat and horses sweat. You know what else sweats? A fish. You take a fish out of the water, they'll sweat. Yep, that's why they're slimy. All right, so we already know that horses are distant relatives of whales. We know that. If you want to Jesus thump at me about the evolution stuff, go ahead. Whatever. You don't have to. If you believe in God, it doesn't mean that you can't believe in evolution. If you believe in evolution, it doesn't mean you can't believe in God. Who says that God didn't make the plan that way? Go figure. If you're upset about it, go jump in a lake. But I think that at some point we lived in the water way more than we do today. I think we were pretty much always in the water. We have essentially proven that with the way our features work and look and everything else. It's not even up for debate that we used to live way more of our life in the water. In fact, they say that's why sometimes people are still born with webbed toes and webbed fingers, is it's actually a recessive trait from a long time ago when we all had that to make it easier to swim. Okay. People that, like these islanders and stuff that still live and fish, like in the water every day, have crazy abilities. Like this one dude could hold his breath for like 20 minutes. What the hell? This other guy can dilate his pupils on command, like a muscle. Like you can flex your bicep, this dude can go like, and just like make his pupil dilate so he can see better underwater. It's nuts. It's crazy. So I think that we wouldn't be able to do that stuff if it wasn't, I think like we lost the ability to do that. I think that probably everybody used to be able to do that. So I do think that mermaids are probably just a faction of humans that never adjusted to land life and just kept living that water life, that salt life. Let's see, what can we talk about? Lake monsters and river monsters. Like what we're talking about in that sense is what I think is going to be for another video, which is spiritual creatures and, guardians and stuff. There's a lot of stuff about lake and river spirits that drown people. We'll get into that to the next video. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you're not already following the podcast, Matt from Nomads on Spotify, Matt from Nomads on Apple. That's MATT from Nomads. Make sure you're following along on these podcasts. We'll do some more of them if you enjoy this kind of stuff.
Have you guys seen that video of the the couple that were hiking in the woods? And as they're hiking, they come across a woman who seems to either be wearing a mask or her face disfigured. I really can't tell. And she's just gargling back words to them like if she wasn't human. People are saying this is a mimic. This is saying this is Appalachian woods shenanigans. I don't know where this video takes place, but the video is extremely disturbing. And if it's manufactured, say it is just a skit or whatever by the couple, it is a damn good one. This has 2000s level of creepypasta labeled all over it. I'm going to show you the video here in a second, but I do want to ask you to pay attention to the woman and what she is wearing.
Where'd you just come from? I took the wrong way. Oh my goodness.
Did you see my other two guys?
What? What?
Did you see my other two guys?
Did we see your other two guys? No.
You're supposed to go that way.
No, we're not supposed to go that way.
No.
Meet them?
No, we don't want to meet him.
No, I don't want to meet him.
How about not? I don't know.
You go the other way, you don't gotta go over the tree.
I don't know know, it sounds like she's gargling water. Something over the tree. Oh my goodness.
What?
I thought that was somebody else. She's trying to speak to our channel right now.
Should I wear my orange outfit with this? With the blue?
Oh my
Are you
God.
kidding me right now? She's asking people for what? Oh, why am I? Help me. Oh my goodness. Can't get over that?
I wouldn't be turning my back to that thing at all. Now, the reality is probably it could be somebody that is in distress mentally. She's wearing some sort of, it looks like psychiatric outfit, something maybe, it looks kind of like a nursing outfit, but it could be like she was like in a mental institution or something along those lines. Again, if this is not a skid, this could be a person that actually needs help, so I would probably call the authorities to help her out. But I would definitely not turn my back to her whatsoever. Are you out of your mind? There's no way I'm turning my back to start recording what I can only assume is my wife, to turn back around and then get shivved in the back. Like, absolutely not. That is outrageous. It is extremely scary. And at the end, I kind of got a better look at her face. She's wearing almost like a Halloween mask. So hell no. She's trying to get them to go a certain way, and she knew there was a tree there, so she was trying to, like, you don't have to go near the tree. Like, hell no. She knows too much about the topography of this area. Get out of there. Run. Call the authorities after you're out of the area and let them know that someone is missing in the woods and lost in the woods, and they look like they could be kind of dangerous, so be careful.
Why did this episode of La Rosa de Guadalupe make me super uncomfortable? The episode's name is El Amor Tiene Cambios Extraños. It starts by this girl named Isabel that's dating her boyfriend Noé. Mind you, they're like in middle school, they're super young. The girl has a very strict dad that doesn't let her date anyone, so her relationship for now is a secret. Things turn super dark very fast. The dad walks in on her room and she's like looking at a photo of them too, so she tries to hide it under the pillow. Her dad saw and she's in very big trouble. But this is where things get super creepy and it's just bad. She's not allowed to go out or see her boyfriend at all, so there's this like creepy neighbor that's been like watching whatever is going on the whole time. He's like a 50-year-old man, and he like throws a rock at her window and tells her to like come outside, that supposedly her boyfriend is hiding in his house. So the girl ends up going to her neighbor's house thinking that her boyfriend is actually hiding in the basement because he seems so trustworthy. They go down to the basement, he locks the door and tells her that she's his and that she's gonna stay there forever. So Isabel is now missing and the dad thinks that her boyfriend has something to do with it, so they're all just blaming each other. But fast forward to 12 years, he had the girl for 12 years in the basement and they had 2 kids. However, one day he has like a heart attack and this is Isabel's escape with her children to leave. Her kids are like shocked because they've never seen the outer world. She shows up like at the front door of her house. The mom can't believe it. No one can believe it. It's just like a very creepy ending. It's happy, but the whole time this is just like super disturbing. Then she like reconnects with Noé and it's like a happy ending, but like the whole process of like them not knowing that their daughter has been kidnapped in the neighbor's house this whole time. The Blair Witch Project was believed to be real because of how creepy and realistic it looked. But we all know it's just a movie, right? In 1999, the Blair Witch Project hit theaters. It was filmed just like a documentary, like any other normal camera recording, and it was based on some like 3 teenagers that went missing due to looking for a local urban legend. The entire film was presented as their found footage, shaky cameras, bad quality. It was just looking too realistic. It was super chilling and intense, but the final shot left audiences in disbelief. The studio created like fake posters, fake websites of missing people, you know, for the movie. However, people thought this was real. They actually thought that the Blair Witch was real and that the students actually disappeared. The story was based like on a made-up myth, however, it felt too authentic and people still believe it. They even swear that the Blair Witch actually exists in the Maryland woods. So was this just clever marketing, or was the Blair Witch based on an actual event? Do you guys remember the creepy Facebook Celine Delgado incident? Back in the early 2000s and late 2010s, people started noticing that a weird Facebook profile was added to everyone. No matter what, this mysterious woman Celine Delgado was added to their friends list and there was no way to unadd her. People swore they've never added her, yet her profile was there, like if she was forced to be there. Her account barely had any photos or activity, but the profile picture made her look real. And people were frustrated trying to delete her, but the more they tried, the more she was there. It was nearly impossible. This sparked rumors on the internet claiming that Selena Delgado was not a real person, but maybe she was a ghost or something else stalking people. Even creepier, her name is tied to an urban legend in Mexico that supposedly it was a missing person. This led many users to believe that she was a ghost haunting social media. Till this day, the Selena Delgado urban legend still haunts Facebook. And who knows, maybe if you check in your friends list, she might be there. Keep looking. 3 days ago, Sam and Colby posted their most chilling content yet. They called it The Night We Summoned the Devil. The buildup was real, and on Instagram they warned that they may regret this decision for the rest of their life. They posted the video claiming that they summoned the devil, but what does summoning the devil itself really mean? In occultic traditions, it's a form of evocation, meaning they're calling forth a supernatural entity and, they're ordering it to manifest itself. In many occasions, most rituals demand precision. A circle of protection, sacred symbols, sometimes even offerings. Misuse a symbol or do something wrong, and everything slips. Your control is completely out of your control. And whatever entity you brought is hard to go back in the box. And the risks, mental strain, possession. Folklore warns that once the camera stops rolling, you get possessed. In modern conspiracy lore, these things can happen. The demon's entities may linger, you may hear whispers, see shadows, those things. So when Sam and Colby said we may regret it for the rest of our lives, best believe they didn't lie.
So listen to me.
Hey guys, Appalachian Mountains scary story time. So there is this girl, right? And she also got on a camping trip. Why camping trip? No one knows. And she decided, I'm gonna bring my friends and my sister. So her sister's name is Lily, her other friend is Cameron, and her other friend is Asher. So 4 people in total. So they bring all their sleeping bags, and they bring their tents, and they bring all these things. And the camping spot, they can't find it. It's nowhere in this place, and they're in the Appalachian Mountains. So why are they even here at night? Why? So they, decide, so her friends Cameron and Asher, they decide, why don't we just find a different spot? It's not that bad, So Lily and Emma, I think, yeah, Lily and Emma, they decide, they're like, no, we're just gonna go back to the car. And their age gaps are about 16 and 18, so between that. 16, 14, and 18. But between all of that, so yeah. So they decide, well, it's not going to be that bad, Karen Asher. No, get back to your car and you'll be okay, right? Nope, they're little idiots. So they found this certain spot, and they're just not having it. This spot just has bad vibes. They don't know what's wrong about it. It just has bad vibes, if you know what I mean. They're not staying there. But under peer pressure, they stay. Why the fuck would they stay? No one knows. Okay. Yeah. So, under peer pressure, they stay. God knows why. They do. And as you can tell, I got my nose done. I'm a couple off. But anyway, they set up their stuff, and they're like, this is not gonna be so bad, right? Because, they're all settled, they have their campfire, they're roasting marshmallows, all is going a good time. And they're doing this, they're being a little baddie. And they're having fun until it comes nighttime. Never stay in the Appalachian Mountains during nighttime. And, they, get to bed, they all go to bed around, I would say, maybe around 2 a.m., like 2:30 a.m. She wakes up in like one of those like very hot sweats, even though it's like 20 degrees outside. 20. And like she's in a hot sweat, and she looks next to her. Her friend's not there. Where is she gone? And she opens her tent because maybe she's taking a Waz or a Shaz. And she sees like this floating object right outside it. Like, so this is her tent, and right outside her tent is like the porta potty. You guys have any garlic? But she's like on the side, so like, where is she at? Because she's like right next to the porta potty. And I'm like getting goosebumps. And it's like right next to the porta potty. So like, why is she there? And like her friends there. She's like so weird about it. Like, what the freak is going on? And her friend is floating like the girl from Stranger Things, Max. Like, and Cameron is like floating because she was like sleeping in Cameron's tent with her, and Lily was sleeping with Ashton or Asher, and Asher is a girl. I have no idea why her name is that. And so they decide that this is over. She decides that this is over. Sorry, I don't know where we got they. She decides this is over. No, because Emma is freaking out while everyone's asleep and there's a floating figure. So, she closes her tent as fast as she can, and she hears like scratching on the tent. Scratching! And she is like, no, I'm no. So she's like, no, like, I don't know what's wrong with this place. And she hasn't heard the stories. Like, she hasn't heard the stories. Like, why haven't you heard the stories? Is that still you sending me stuff? Like, huh? Like, it's questionable of why do I have, like, such a big piece of slime? No, it's questionable. Why is she still here? Reminds me of one of my fat cats I used to have. Anyway, she's so freaking out. And, dawn comes. 6 a.m., they're ready to go. And she's, like, talking with her friends, like, all freaked out, because, like, she's like, oh my god, there's, like, this floating figure, and they think she's going crazy, because, everyone else was sleeping. And she was recording the whole time. And when she shows the video, nothing is there. Nothing. Nothing? Wow. And she's like, I swear, I took that video. And they're all like, well, that's crazy. And then she's talking to Asher, and she's like, that really happened. And Asher saw this too, but she was the one floating. So, and she was in the tent, and she didn't see her, Emily. So there's like some switch swapping here, and she said, I saw you floating. And they're like, yeah, we're never coming back here again. And they went home, and their whole house is trashed. And they go to the bathroom, because they're exploring their trashed up house, saying, I know what you saw, too. What the fuck? Okay, what? No, I need you to step back for a second. I'll rewind that and think. What do you mean you saw that too? No one was home. Oh, and even if someone was, they're not on that camping trip. Only the 4, not 5. They're all gone for that camping trip. And so they're like now freaking out. No, this can't be happening. So now they believe them. And Emily and all the other groups still get strange feelings every time they just drive past the Appalachian Mountains. Because they live so close to them. Like 5 miles away. 5 miles. Wow. And make sure to like and follow me. Please do. And check out my YouTube account, Besties for Life. Peace. Shaka.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Delphi After Dawn Crime Stories with Jason King. I'm your host, Jason King. And tonight, we're talking about one of the most mysterious, terrifying places in America, right here where I live, the Appalachian Mountains. That's right. These mountains stretch across the eastern United States through places like Virginia, right here where I live, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. But what makes them truly terrifying isn't just their size, it's their story. Let me tell you all the story. The Appalachian Mountains are believed to be some of the oldest mountains right here on Earth, older than almost anything we can imagine. These mountains existed before human civilization, and many people believe they hold secrets buried deep within the forests and caves that we were never meant to uncover. That's right. For generations, people living in the Appalachia have told stories about strange disappearances. Hunters vanish without a trace, experienced hikers walking into the woods and are never seen again. Families report loved ones hearing voices calling their names from deep in the forest, moments before disappearing forever and never being seen ever again. It's like they just vanish off the face of the earth. And what's creepy is how similar the stories always are. People talk about hearing whistles in the woods late at night. They describe sudden silence where every insect and bird just completely stops making noise altogether. Many say that's when the fear kicks in, because in nature, silence means a predator is near. That's right, when the woods go silent, that's when you know something's going on. Locals around here have warnings passed down for generations. If you hear something calling your name in the woods, know you didn't. Never whistle at night when you're outside in the woods. And whatever you do, don't go looking into the trees for too long. Some people claim they've seen massive humanoid creatures out here, standing between the trees, watching them, just lurking and watching. All they see is their glowing eyes looking back at them. I've even seen it before. Others describe pale crawling figures moving unnaturally fast through the forest at night. Some report glowing eyes staring back at them from ridges miles away before suddenly disappearing. Some report glowing eyes staring at them from ridge miles away before suddenly disappearing. And then there are the caves. Endless underground cave systems running beneath these mountains. Some of them are near right here where I live. Dark tunnels so deep and unexplored that nobody truly knows what's down there. There are stories of people entering those caves and never coming back out, never to be seen again. Imagine being deep underground with only a flashlight and hearing footsteps echo behind you, even though you know you went in alone. Many hikers and campers who survived strange encounters in these Appalachian Mountains describe the same feeling, an overwhelming sense of dread. It just comes over them all at once, like something ancient is watching them from the darkness. Maybe these stories are just folklore, but I don't think they are. Maybe fear causes people to imagine things. I think it's more than fear. Or maybe these mountains are hiding something humanity doesn't fully understand. But remember, because at the end of the day, these mountains were ancient long before us, and they'll still be standing long after we're gone. So if you ever find yourself alone deep in these Appalachian mountains at nighttime, and you hear something calling your name from the woods, no, you didn't. Whatever you do, don't answer back. This has been brought to you by Delphi After Dawn, Crime Stories with Jason King. I'm your host, Jason King. If you enjoyed this story and found it compelling, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. See you all in the next video. And always remember, if you're near the mountains, if you hear something, no, you didn't. Y'all stay safe out there. Until next time. See you all in the next video.
Creepy security camera footage captured an absolute nightmare just hours after the woman and her husband left for vacation. At exactly 2:13 a.m., a terrifying human face suddenly appeared out of nowhere in the reflection of their front door glass. And that was only the beginning. Soon after, 2 cameras inside the house sent back chilling motion alert. The first trigger happened near the living room stairs, where a massive dark shadow was creeping around in the pitch black. But strangely, no physical body was ever visible on screen. Right after that, the dining room camera went off, showing another distinct dark figure slowly roaming down the hallway. It was perfectly clear that an intruder had entered the house the moment the woman and her husband left. But when she frantically checked the exterior footage, the doors and windows were totally locked, with zero signs of a break-in or forced entry. How did this intruder just materialize inside the home? Once this footage was shared online, it sparked a massive panic. It makes people wonder, when they lock up and leave, could someone already be sneaking inside, hiding in a blind spot, just waiting for the owners to return? Or even worse, what if they are hiding somewhere in the house right now, quietly watching everything?